from Castle Goring, from Mickey, Aurora, and from me. Well, much excitement. The least of which is the launch of Meghan Markle's products today, because, of course, as you're going to see, they're going to tank, because nobody's spending $15+ on a bottle of jam by someone as inelegant and affected and pretentious and undesirable as Meghan, save, of course, for her Sussex squad supporters, most of whom I doubt would have the money to buy more than maybe one pot of jam, which they will then proudly display as a centerpiece in their best room. But putting that aside, I don't think anybody else is going to. But I was sent something, the Royal Pup Pack, which is a really rather sweet little book that I was sent about the royal pups, and it's just a wonderful little thing for children. And at the end of this, I am going to ask Sean to post its particulars. Okay? Sorry, frog in throat time. Tanya Svigarkis says, am I the only one who thinks Meghan Markle only shows up to support Harry when it is in a positive light, e.g. Invictus? Never supports her husband, e.g. court cases or Dr Sophie case. So much for better or for worse. Well, Meghan took the vows that her mother taught her. When you're going to give the milk, make sure you get paid for it. And when you take your marriage vows, cross your fingers when it says for better or for worse. Because what you really mean is for better and better and better and more and more and more. And if that happens to rhyme with anything else that springs to mind, so be it. As George Bernard Shaw said to the Duchess, Madam, we have established what you are. We are now simply haggling over the price. Another way of putting it is that certain people are dyed-in-the-wool fair-weather friends. And do we think Meghan is one? She's only there. She's a honeypot that's only there for the honey. And, of course, she's going to be selling honey. I forget what it is. I think it's going really cheap. Maybe it's $2,500 a jar. I wonder what she's been squeezing into those honey pots. And you'll notice that after much ado about her spreads and her preserves, which of course are far too precious for them to be jam. Oh, no, they can't be jam. Sorry, they can't be jam because I'm just too great and grand. I take tea with a cocked finger. I haven't arrived. I have arriven. And my jam's gonna be, my spread is inspired by me, and it's going to inspire you to reminisce, and because hopefully you're going to be as pretentious as I am, and you're not going to enjoy the ordinary. You're going to elevate it into god-awful, absolute rubbish. So, let's move on. Terry Starr says, sounds like William is doing what he can to save Sentebale rather than see it be dismantled. Very good point. Both the Prince of Wales and King Charles are very committed to their charities, their flagship charities. Charles with the Prince's, now the King's Trust, and William with Earthshot and the Tusk. Let's remember the Tusk Trust, which does wonderful work in Africa. He has been the patron since 2005. And I don't know, those of you who have a long enough memory, the name Jekka Craig might mean something to you. Because, of course, she was African and she was one of William's girlfriends, and they're still great friends. And he understands the value that Sentebale has, and he doesn't want to see it collapse. He also, of course, understands the value that this whole debacle has, because it is the absolute refutation of the fact that the royal family was justly accused of racism. It shows that Harry and Meghan are very mean game players, and they have been outmaneuvered. But I'll get to that in a second. The mission of Sentebale, I'll return to the question, is positive and important, and Harry should not be allowed to wreck it as if it were a rich man's toy. Well, it was a rich man's toy. It was a rich man's creation, and it was for a while a very good creation. Let's give credit where it's due. About time Harry is forced to recognize that he has acted in an improper manner and should step back and shut up. I couldn't agree more, Terry Starr, because everything you say is true and fair. I'm just interjecting to make the point that everything you say, despite being true and fair, originally it was a good thing. And Harry has treated the charity as his baby, and he has treated it as if it's an extension of himself, and he has come a cropper as a result of that. Because at some point, the charity, whatever charity it is, needs to be able to be viewed as your baby growing up, becomes an adult. It needs to stand on its own 2 feet. Harry's charities, sadly, whether it is Invictus or Sentebale, seem to be very centered on being platforms for PR for Harry and Meghan. That never used to be the case, but it now is. William is trying to save Sentebale. That's why he has allowed Ian Rawlinson to become a part of Sentebale and to be appointed a trustee of Sentebale. And remember, Ian Rawlinson is also associated with the Tusk Trust. We would be very naive to think that William doesn't understand that sometimes in life, when you do the right thing, you get your reward in more ways than one. And he is getting his reward in more ways than one, because Harry is involved in a huge race row caused by his conduct and Meghan's conduct. And of course, his people have been accusing, as I will get to in a minute, Sophie Chandauka of playing the race card. But Harry, you and Meghan have been playing it. Was it okay to play it unjustly when it suited you and your wife, and she then was your girlfriend, to be able to maraud at the expense of everybody. But when somebody is playing it rather with rather more merit than you played it, they're evil. Oh dear, oh dear. How does that one work? Christina says, Black American woman hair. And Lady C, you hit the nail on everything here in this video, as you always do. That, of course, was the previous video on Tuesday. Thank you very much. I mean, I'm really lucky. I'm Jamaican. And being Jamaican, I have a greater understanding of the nuances of not only the colour question and the class question, but also how it's played by all sides and how each side on occasion can play it constructively and on other occasions can play it destructively. And I have got a lot of really wonderful comments from many people saying how pleased they are that I have covered it the way I have covered it. I've got one or two other comments saying that, primarily from Zimbabweans, saying that they don't think I got everything right. Well, you have your opinion, I have mine. You may be right. My sources of information may be right, but I'm going to go with mine, because since some of them are even connected to the Mugabe family, I don't think that I should forego their wisdom and defer to other people who may think they know better, but may actually not. Because one thing I've learned in life is not everything is as it appears to be, although very often things are exactly as they appear to be. The trick is to find out which is applicable at which point. Coco Pop says, Dear Lady C, as someone who has been in the arena fighting the good fight, what are your thoughts on how Harry and his fellow trustees will respond to Dr. Chandauka's allegations? Do you think Harry will file a defamation suit? Well, I doubt that very much. Absolutely, very much. If he did, it would be the biggest mistake of his life, because this would perpetuate the scandal and enlarge the drama into a crisis. So, of course, Rachel Zane might have something different to say on this subject. And let's remember, we need to defer to Rachel Zane's superior knowledge, because she couldn't even pass her bar exams. But she was very good and still is at passing worms. Will his PR machine arrange another Tom Bradby-esque softball interview, or will he allow others to speak for him? Good point. I'm going to come to that in a moment, because, of course, he has already allowed an old Etonian whom he has known for some time and who is friendly with him and who went to the North Pole with him to wade in on his behalf. But we'll get to that in a moment. So I think he's going to be careful about a Tom Bradby type of interview, because this time he understands, unless he's totally dumb. Well, I mean, he is totally dumb, but if he's even dumber than dumb, that this time he wouldn't be able to get away with it, because the subject is his conduct. So they can't dance around that with how wonderful he is. From a PR point of view, what do you think is his best approach to ameliorate the situation? there's nothing he can do to ameliorate the situation. He and Meghan have very destructively played the race card since November 2017, is it? Or is it 2016? When Camilla Tominey wrote that story for the Sunday Express. She got him to get Jason Knopf to play the race card, totally inappropriately, without any merit whatsoever. Since then, they have been playing the race card. The royal family's racist. Somebody was a racist because they were speculating on what colour Archie might be, as if everybody doesn't speculate as to how their children are going to look. If one parent is fair and the other is dark, even if they're the same race, people automatically wonder, it's the most natural thing in the world, whether the child is going to take after the fairer or the darker parent or someone else further down the food chain, so to speak. He has systematically, for money, played the race card. Now, can he complain that Sophie Chandauka has played the race card? And she has. There are no two ways about it. I mean, I have to say, as a totally dispassionate observer who knows rather more about the colour question than the average person, being Jamaican, because remember, most Americans, most Europeans, most Brits don't really know that much about the colour question, unless, of course, they are immersed in that world. As a Jamaican, you have to be immersed in it, especially if you are a white Jamaican, because you have to see it from all angles. If you're a black Jamaican, you can have a big chip on your shoulder and get away with it. If you're a brown Jamaican, you can have a big chip on your shoulder and justify it to yourself and the world. But if you're a white Jamaican, you have to see things realistically if you are going to remain a part of Jamaican society and the Jamaican culture. So it forces you to be dispassionate. And if you are going to be locking in any way with the relevance of the country as it now is, you absolutely cannot harbour any old-fashioned prejudices, nor actually, unless you are totally stupid or insane, can you harbour new-fangled prejudices. There's no doubt in my mind that Harry and Meghan's behaviour was reprehensible, arrogant, impertinent, and anybody with any dignity would have been outraged. But remember what Sophie Chandauka said in her statement. She believes in everybody treating everybody else equally. Now, that is a huge indication of what she expected from Harry. She expected from Meghan as well that she be treated with the respect that she, according to her, was endowing everybody else with, and expected reciprocity and didn't get it. She's a bright woman, and anybody caught up in a power struggle or any sort of struggle, and certainly a struggle that is going to be played out on the world stage would have to be incredibly dumb and incredibly ineffectual not to use any weapon in their arsenal to destroy the enemy, which Harry and Meghan made themselves into, on a more than one level. So it's not only one level, it's more levels than one. There's no doubt, if you are dispassionate, that she was outraged at the indignities to which she was subjected, and she felt great resentment, if you read between the lines as what she's saying, as to how she was being ordered around to perform in ways that she regarded as antithetical to the interests of the charity. So it's not only personal, it's professional. So her back was put up both personally and professionally. And is she going to be able to say, which she could have said, Harry is an arrogant so-and-so, and so is Meghan. And they think that because they're members of the royal family, they can unload from a great height, as if she's a lavatory bowl and they are actually the substance of which they are made. She can't say that. She can't really say that it's a class thing, that they are dumping on her because whether she was white or not, she would, or black or brown, she would, or yellow or pink or green, she would still feel the same way she feels. But because she's black, she has the race card and she knows to play it against them because she knows they've played it against innocents, including the royal family. And at that point, those who have suffered at Harry and Meghan's hands' interests coincide with hers, if only at this time and upon this point. What did Harry do? He compounds things. He gets Alex Rayner, who is in PR, to stay, and Harry gets, and I'm going to quote what Alex Rayner says. Harry is very happy for me to speak on behalf of him. He is heartbroken and flabbergasted that the charity he founded as a teenager has been taken hostage by the chair. Well, may I stop right there and say, it is very bad language, it's very poor English to refer to somebody as the position. The position a chairman occupies is the chair. Some people nowadays say chairwoman for a female chairman, but a chairman or a chairwoman, and actually the elegant, traditional, classical, and usually correct way of saying it is Madam Chairman. But you can say chairwoman if you want to be contemporary. But chair, no. The chairman occupies the chair. The chair is the position. The person who occupies it is the chairman, or the Madam Chairman, or the chairwoman. So let's just make that little point for what it's worth. He's supposed to be an old Etonian, and he doesn't understand such basic nuances of correct language. Oh dear, oh dear. Did his parents waste their money the way Prince Charles wasted his on Harry? And he says that she has taken hostage of the charity. Interesting. She didn't dismiss the board of trustees. She didn't ask the trustees and the patrons to stand down. They elected to do so. So, since they elected to do so, who's responsible for their actions? I just asked that question for what it's worth, on purely ethical grounds. Because, philosophically nowadays, people don't seem to understand the concept of personal responsibility. And when you do something and you make a choice, it's your choice and it's your responsibility. So I make that point for what it's worth. Anyway, let me continue Alex Rayner's rant. It feels tantamount to a hostile takeover. Excuse me, they're the ones who vacated. I'd make that point again. It feels like Dr. Sophie had her nose put out of joint because she was not the most important woman of colour on the stage. Now, there we go. Now, that's a real playing the race card again, and playing it stupidly and playing it destructively, because in terms of Sentebale, Meghan was not the most important woman of colour on the stage. Meghan was the least important woman of colour on the stage because she had no status whatsoever. The wife of a patron does not have status officially in terms of a charity. I make that point for what it's worth. But then for Harry and doubtless Meghan and Alex Rayner to be playing the colour card again so pointedly and nastily and stupidly, as if to say, because anybody who doesn't agree with anything Meghan and Harry do is accused of being jealous of Meghan and Harry. Or usually Meghan, they're accused of being jealous of Meghan. So, which is, who is Meghan Markle that people should be so jealous of her? Where is her outstanding success? She was successful in hooking Harry with all the wiles that she employed so that he was known as BJ's Harry at the palace. And I'm not saying that's not an art, because it is. However, has she gone from strength to strength? No, she's gone from strength to weakness. She has gone from being one half of one of the most popular couples on earth to a reviled pariah. Now, that's not something anybody in their right mind would be jealous of, is it? But, to play the colour card like that is just beyond astonishing. But they deserve it. Harry and Meghan deserve it because they're the ones who've been playing the colour card. And the fact Sophie Chandauka has played it against them as well, and now they're trying to play it back against her. And Alex Rayner seems to forget that the whole world knows that Meghan passed for white for most of her life and strongly objected in the Netflix series that she and Harry sold their souls out for, that she strongly objected to the fact that the British press called her black because nobody had ever regarded her as black before. Very convenient, eh? When it suits her, she's a woman of colour, and when it doesn't, she's a white woman. And that's a part of the rub in the community, the black community and the community of colour, that she has flip-flopped racially. Then he continues, having made a really rather mean and nasty point, and a stupid point, because Sophie Chandauka's objection wasn't that Meghan was a more important person of colour than she is. It was that Meghan was mistreating her and disrespecting her, irrespective of her colour. So her colour had really, on one level, very little to do with it. But Sophie Chandauka will know, as do I, and as will Meghan, and as will Doria, and as will many people who have a foot in the black world and the black community, that black people sometimes look down on brown people, and brown people sometimes look down on black people. And these are realities that confuse the issue, so to speak, but actually also enlighten on the issue. So to continue there is an undercurrent of stink here because Meghan showed up, and it is coming from her Dr. Sophie. Meghan showed up unexpectedly because she wanted a photo op. She was using the event, which was an event to raise money for Sentebale, that Sophie and her people had been working on for some considerable length of time. And I've organized big things, and I can tell you it's a hell of a lot of work, and you don't need anybody throwing fits or creating problems at the 99th hour and behaving the way Meghan did. It's chaotic, it's disorderly, and it's not only disrespectful, it is unprofessional as well. But of course, Meghan, once she knew that Netflix was going to be involved, she couldn't resist the photo op. And the chair should never have let that narrative take hold that Meghan had caused an issue. Why not? It's the truth. Sophie Chandauka is not the one who complained to everybody who was looking at the footage and seeing what was going on. Sophie Chandauka is not responsible for the evolution and development of the narrative. Meghan is. Meghan is the one who, first of all, shouldn't have been there, which she knew as well as Sophie. And then Meghan is ordering Sophie around and rejigging things in such a way that it gets noticed by the world's press. But you see, Meghan has yet again created a drama and a sensation. And having done so, it's not her fault, even though she did it. It's everybody else's fault, even though they didn't do it. And now she has this Sir Galahad wading into the fight on her behalf, accusing Sophie of being responsible for a narrative that Sophie didn't create. Meghan created the scenario, and everybody saw it, and not being stupid, realized what was going on and commented upon it. So how is Sophie to blame for that? She's not. If that narrative did take hold, I would argue it is down to the chair to put it right. Put what right? The fact that the press saw what was going on and spoke the truth. So it's now an offence for anybody to call out Meghan for being disrespectful to the chairman of the board of trustees of the charity. So it's the fault of the chairman of the board for lying to the press and lying to the public and giving a false narrative. I see how that one works. I hope you do as well. I'm sure you do. They could have issued a statement and put a stop to it, but they did not. They could not have put a stop to it by issuing a statement. It was obvious what had happened. Are these people totally delusional? Do they think that everybody is blind, deaf, and dumb, as well as stupid? I mean, unbelievable. It would have made things worse. I agree with Sophie Chandauka there. It would have made things worse. Why? Again, this whole thing smells. It certainly does. But let's remember where the fecal matter is coming from, Alex Rayner. It feels planned. There we go again. First, always the race card and always the victim card. And they are always, Harry and Meghan are always the victims of some conspiracy. She causes the problem. And it's Sophie who planned it. Sophie didn't even know she was going to be there. It feels planned. Was Sophie getting in touch with the press and the media and telling them, what you've seen, you can't comment on? That would have caused a bigger stir. So how is it planned by Sophie? But you notice he hasn't actually said it was planned. He said it feels planned. So whenever Harry and Meghan and their team want to discredit somebody, they don't say it happened. They say it feels as if. So their feelings trump reality. And I suspect the whole thing could only have come from the chair herself. How is that possible? How is that possible, Alex Rayner? It's just beyond belief. But this is such an instruction in the way Harry, Meghan, and Team Sussex function. It suits people to take note, because this is the most wonderful lesson for anybody who wants to know how Team Sussex functions, to learn from. Nothing's ever their fault. Nothing they do is ever wrong. When people perceive their wrongdoing accurately, they are the victims of accurate perception. But since they are so great, grand, wonderful, and perfect, nobody is allowed to actually arrive at the logical conclusion. And everybody else must accept the blame for their blameworthiness. Crazy. I mean, these people are really malignant, absolutely malignant. And I am delighted that this has happened. I have been hoping that something would happen, and I'm not the only person who's been hoping, that would actually call time and focus attention on the completely destructive and abusive way in which Harry and Meghan and Team Sussex function. And the kernel of their wrongdoing has been race and the race card. And this is perfect, because this involves a black woman who was disrespected and is now being blamed and accused of being jealous of Meghan. Because Meghan is a woman of colour. And Meghan is royal. Crazy madness. Tina Brining says, Harry's imperious behaviour has been on full display before. At the Pat Tillman Awards, when you could actually hear him commanding the 3 disabled veterans to remain on stage with him despite their clear physical and mental discomfort, I commented upon it at the time. Thank you. Let me continue. Personally, I found that to be appalling behaviour. And again, disrespectful and arrogant. That he and his entourage then left not long afterwards, in the middle of the ceremony, while somebody was making a speech as well, and causing major disruption by not going out quietly and respectfully, was even further evidence of his arrogance and selfishness, and total disregard for anybody else's rights, the courtesies and civilities of life, and of the fact that people have a right to observe how badly behaved he is and make a comment upon it. But no, we're supposed to told that we are not seeing what we're seeing. And of course, I commented upon this at the time as well. So I'm reading this out because I think it's so apropos. It seems that he has lost any semblance of good manners and respect for others since he left the UK. Absolutely true. But then he's been schooled by, quite frankly, a pig. Maybe we just didn't see it when he was here. Perhaps the press and the palace buried a lot of it. Harry did, in fairness to him, often rally well, and before Meghan came on the scene, he was always atrocious with the press. He was always abrasive and abusive very often. But then, at other times, he could be actually quite nice with some of the journalists. But by and large, with the public, he was good. And he was liked by the public, and the press reported upon it. It's since he fell under Meghan's thrall. And I remember when I wrote my first Meghan and Harry book and said that he was in her thrall, I was abused by the mainstream media and several members of the public, all of whom have now come to see that actually I was simply a little bit ahead of them in terms of my observations. Danny says, they are trying to pull out the jealousy card. They are pathetic. Yes, but it's anybody who doesn't worship at Meghan's altar is an infidel who is supposed to be condemned for lack of proper religious belief in the God that exists in front of Harry's eyes. Except it's not a goddess. It's, quite frankly, a monster of clay. But yes, they have tried to pull out the jealousy card. And it's not worked. What would Sophie Chandauka have to be jealous of Meghan? I mean, she has a better figure than Meghan for starters. And let's stop right there. Because we're not going to tot up accomplishments. Because the fact of the matter is, Sophie Chandauka has played her hand brilliantly. In different circumstances, I would have to say that she should be a field marshal in a war. She certainly knows how to play her cards. Doreen Serb says, regarding the term dictatorial, not everything should be a democratic process. A perfect example is a music conductor or head of a band. Wonderful things can happen with a strong leader who knows what needs to be done and gets it done. Smart people recognize when the smart leader should be followed and go in and assist and make something great happen. That's absolutely correct. All of this started not because Sophie Chandauka was instructing experts, in quotes, to try to raise funds. Now, I have to tell you, I have been raising funds for charities since I was 22 years old. The first event I did was at the State Theatre in Kingston, Jamaica, when I was 22 years old. And it's a very difficult thing to do, especially in a hostile market in terms of economy, which we are in. That's one thing. The second thing is, charities, it's much easier to raise money for charities when there is eminence and prestige and glamour attached to it. I used to say in committee meetings, when usually some novice who was new to the game would be on the committee and be speaking about, oh, it's a wonderful cause. I used to say, let's cut to the chase. It's all about getting bums on seats and getting people to open up their wallets. Most people are sufficiently selfish as to want a value for money. Most people are not going to give purely out of the goodness of their heart. Many will, but not most. There's a big difference. You want to appeal to most, not to many, and certainly not to the few. None of what Sophie Chandauka was doing actually sits as a red flag where anybody who knows about fundraising is concerned. Charities are changing, especially charities in Africa or the West Indies. In Jamaica, we speak about roots. It's the roots thing. And yes, you want to get people who are going to open up their purse strings, but roots level counts. And there were no problems insofar as I can see with what Sophie Chandauka was doing until that fiasco in Florida when Meghan pitched up. And you stand over there. I mean, who do you think you are? Who do you think you are? I'm a proud, confident woman of colour, and you're not going to tell me what to do. And I don't care that you're darker than me. Because remember who's played the colour card. Harry and Meghan have played it in a big way now. Of course, Sophie also played it. Let's be clear about that. Remember, misogynoir? So, personally speaking, I don't think colour comes into it at all. I think, or if it does, I think it's not even a secondary issue. I think it's a tertiary issue. I think what comes into it is jockeying for position, who expects to be treating whom well, and who feels that they've been badly treated by whom. And I think it's irrespective of the colour of the people involved, I think the whole thing would have gone belly up. But the beauty of it is it's gone belly up between a brown woman and a black woman, and the brown woman was the one who was destructively playing the race card over a period of 8 years. I think it's 8 years she's been playing the race card. And thank God a black woman has come to the rescue of the world. Because I have to tell you, as a Jamaican, I have been absolutely appalled, and as have many people in the black community in the West Indies and in Africa, at the way Meghan has been playing the race card and doing it destructively. I mean, if she had done it constructively, that would have been another matter. And Sophie Chandauka, whatever her failings, is in this instance playing the race card, and it's not being destructive. Well, it is destructive to Harry and Meghan's brand, but it's not destructive in terms of racial harmony, the role of black people in Africa and in the United Kingdom and in the Commonwealth. She's actually played it brilliantly, and good luck to her. Me says, Dear Lady C, do you know why Sophie Chandauka's first appointment was Sentebale? She is listed by Companies House as British, but her second appointment as Zimbabwean, well, she is British now. She's a British citizen. She's functioned in Britain for years. I would imagine it was because it looked good. They wanted to get across the ethnicity part of it all. They wanted to make it more roots. They wanted to make it more appealing. You could say it's pandering to fashion. I don't think it's particularly ominous, but it has certainly been helpful, although it didn't really need to exist at all, because we only need to look at Sophie Chandauka to see that she is hardly Aryan. And I just think it's especially when you're dealing in political worlds, media worlds, charity worlds, you use every advantage that you possess to give you the edge. It's as simple as that. It's just an edge. And it's neutrally an edge. It's not racist. It's not ominous. It's just a little edge. It's not a big deal. Everything doesn't have to be negative or destructive or have a negative interpretation. It's just an edge. Tears and BJs says, I love that name. And it does so remind me of how they used to call Harry BJ's Harry, except they'd spell it, they wouldn't abbreviate it. It was the full 9 yards. Blowing in the wind. Oh, such a good job. BJ's Harry. Well, Tears and BJ's says, Lady C, I haven't heard anyone comment on the rationale behind the entire board resigning. It seems to me that remaining and either negotiating with Sophie or filing suit would be the standard course of action. By resigning, aren't they just handing the charity over to her? My suspicion is that by resigning, they are hoping that misappropriation of funds and shady practices will never be brought to light. What do you make of the two princes resigning? I think they thought they were going to be able to neutralize Sophie Chandauka. I don't think they expected her to come out fighting the way she has. I think they were trying to outmaneuver her, and she has outmaneuvered them. I think it's as simple as that. I think they thought that by resigning en bloc, they would be giving a message, and she would slink away back onto the rock whence she had crawled. And she hasn't done that because she's not a worm. And they have given her the ideal opportunity. I think there was that element to it. I think they also were aware of the possible legal danger of fighting her through the courts, because she is the one who instigated legal proceedings against the board. And I think they thought that if they stepped aside, they would neutralize that danger, and they would effectively blow her out of the water and she would disappear. And what they didn't realize was that she has far more metal than they thought. And it is really surprising that they had not realized that. They are obviously not very good judges of character, because she had been on the board for several years before she came back as the chairman of the board of trustees. They should have realized what they were dealing with, but they didn't. They should also have realized that her eminence, even her honor, is due to racial diversity. Therefore, she is very adept at playing the system. And I'm not saying that as either a negative or a positive. I'm saying that as a statement of fact. And often playing the system can be, if as long as you do it correctly and constructively, a very positive thing. If you play it destructively, it can be a negative thing. But I don't think they realized what they were up against. But I think that's what happened. Lucky says, I wonder if Dr. Sophie will be the recipient of the Fighting International Racism Award in 2025. Perhaps the Harkles will be selected to present the award. Oh, I don't know. Don't you think we should maybe have Kerry Kennedy on stage with them? Remember, Harry and Meghan got an award for fighting institutional racism within the royal family. Now it turns out they are the institutional, or it really should be institutionalized racists. I just love it. Yes, maybe we should create an international award for the fight against racism. And maybe we should nominate Harry and Meghan. And what about Dr. Sophie Chandauka? Personally speaking, as I said, I think this is about respect and disrespect, and the outrage that somebody who expected to be treated with respect has felt when she was disrespected. Leslie Forbes says, Virginia, days to live. Well, where are the drips, heart monitors, etc.? No jewelry in hospital, let alone the ICU, getting sympathy. You don't wear singlets in ICU. She forgot to don a hospital gown. And MAM says, Lady C, do you think it's coincidental that Virginia Giuffre has popped up just as things are getting hot for the Democrat supporters, Harry and Meghan? I didn't think of that as an angle, let me put it that way. Could the left-wingers be at it again the way they were when they set Prince Andrew up? Very interesting take on things. I don't think Harry and Meghan's difficulties are of sufficient note where the Democrats are concerned for them to be unleashing Virginia Giuffre into the arena to fight the good fight for the nice Harry and Megsy baby and their support for all left-wing causes. I really don't think it has anything to do with the Democrats. Sorry. I don't think it has anything to do with left-wing politics or right-wing politics. I could be wrong, but I don't think so. Virginia Giuffre evidently was due to be tried for domestic abuse. And I think that it has been a way of creating a drama. She's another Meghan and Harry. She's a drama queen. And like Meghan and Harry, she's none too fussy about using whatever is available to advance her money-making and glorification schemes. and making herself a figure of admiration and sympathy at the same time. I don't believe a word out of that woman's mouth, and I think it's because I have studied very carefully, and I was given a wealth of information by certain people who I have to say I was extremely grateful for pointing things out to me. Virginia Giuffre has a long track record, starting when she was about 13 years old, if not before. I think she is a bad un, as they used to say. And I think that she certainly gave her parents absolute hell when she was growing up. And, you know, some people are born without scruples, and some people are born to cause trouble. And if you examine Virginia Giuffre's track record, I think you would be hard put to say she doesn't somehow fit that profile. And this is long before she ever met Jeffrey Epstein, whom she didn't meet until and work for until she was 17 years old. She was always over the age of legal consent, where her employment with him was concerned. And I think she went along with, well, I don't want to go into it, quite frankly. I mean, if you want me to, I can go into it on another episode, but I really don't want to go into it. I think that it's totally coincidental. It's a happy coincidence, and for all we know, she might have thought, oh, well, they're all getting attention. Why am I not getting attention? Because these people spark each other off, and there is a cabal of them. And just because they are not closely connected doesn't mean that they don't, oh, why is she getting all the attention? Why is he getting attention? I want some attention. And also she's dodging a bullet because she's doing court and she wants to gain the sympathy of her children, the public. She has been very convincing as a victim, notwithstanding the fact she is a perpetrator and is an acknowledged perpetrator. I make that point for what it's worth. That she had very clever advisors, including David Boys, who set the whole thing up originally. I was told by one of the leading lawyers in the world who has worked with David Boys, both for and against David Boys, and told me the whole thing, staying here one weekend. And I went into it at the time on my channel, and I don't want to get sidetracked by it. I think that she has fabricated the whole thing. I mean, the police have made it absolutely clear there was no great crash. A school bus or a truck evidently has its speed limit set at 100 kilometers per hour. She said it was going at 110. She said it was a school bus full of children. It can't have been. It's all lies. Look at her injuries, supposed injuries. I think it's Amber Heardian cosmetics. Nothing rings true, But once you have examined what Virginia Giuffre's track record is like, nothing has ever rung true. Nothing. But of course, because an unpopular prince was involved, people via the press, the media, decided to give her the benefit of the doubt. But let's remember that doubt was created by the Daily Mail and the Mail on Sunday associated newspapers, because their journalist Sharon Churcher is the one who found Virginia Giuffre, schooled her into giving a better story than she had originally recounted to Sharon Churcher, gave her a taste of what it was like to correct previous versions so that they would be more saleable and that she could get good money for. And she has ended up making millions of dollars on the back of stories that do not add up if you actually use any discernment. And let's remember, she has such a bad reputation in certain quarters that in Ghislaine Maxwell's trial, she wasn't even called as a witness, because the other side knew that had she been called as a witness, she would have been torn apart because she has no credibility. And this simply proves that she has always been not credible. But of course, there are an awful lot of people who will say, oh, Prince Andrew this, Prince Andrew that. Prince Andrew has always denied ever having any relationship of any note with her. And I believe him. And I know why I believe him. And it's not because he's Prince Andrew, because that has nothing to do with it. But because he is Prince Andrew, the mainstream media have gone hell for leather, following the lead of associated newspapers, which has had to rectify their schooling and creation. What's her name? Not Jennifer, Virginia Giuffre. And on that note, I'll say, I think I've said enough for today. Thank you so much for listening. I hope this has been of some interest to you. If it has, keep the questions and comments coming in so I will know what you would like us to be speaking about. Thank you so much. Take care. Godspeed. And if you have truly enjoyed this, would you care to like, share, subscribe, press the notification bell, and take good care. Bye-bye.